You've served your time looking at these particular topics, not necessarily these, but as a former defence minister with an eye on national security and domestic security. When you hear people like Grant Shapps and Rishi Sunak talk about the risk of essentially migration being used as grey zone warfare by hostile states, and that there therefore needs to be some urgency to do something about it, do you think they've been rather reticent or lackadaisical up until this point by not really grasping the bull by the horns? If now they're saying, well, there are countries such as Iran and Russia behind these vast movements of people.
Well, it's good afternoon, and I'm quite certain that what the Defence Secretary Grant Shapps and the Prime Minister have said about our enemies seeking to use migration as a weapon against us is absolutely right. But let's be absolutely clear. When Kev says that he and everybody else, including me, is sick and tired of hearing one initiative after another, the reason why we've got to this situation is because for years and years, indeed decades, we were not allowed to talk about immigration and the effects of immigration on our country without being labelled racist. And nobody wanted to be labelled racist. The fact is now we face an existential threat to this country, not just from illegal migration. And my personal view is that we shouldn't be paying the border farce, whatever they're paid, to escort migrants to come across the channel to this country. They should be sent straight back to France, whence they came. But we have also got to recognize that 750,000 people legally coming into this country every year constitutes the equivalent of something like 10 parliamentary constituencies. To get the people to understand just what the magnitude of this problem is, it's 10 new constituencies every year. These are overwhelmingly men, overwhelmingly young men, and it has got to stop. And if it means we get out of the ECHR, if it means that we take more drastic action, as Robert Jenrick very, very bravely said the other day, as he resigned as immigration minister, this is not just having an effect on our local services of the medical services, education, housing, and so on. It's having a fundamental effect on the nature of this country and who we are. There are parts of the country where you can't talk about Christmas for fear of offending Muslims. For goodness sake, this is our country. We're a Christian country. And let us defend that which we have. And those who wish to come to this country and accept us for what we are and accept our values, our traditions, etc., fine. But if you don't, push off and go and live somewhere else.
Yeah, Gerald, what you said just then about the ECHR, you know, when you say to, shall we say, political traditionalists, often in the Tory party, to be fair, why don't we just leave the ECHR? They throw up their arms. Oh my God, we can't do that. Then we'll be, you know, joining the ranks of Russia and Belarus, who also aren't in the ECHR. Just because we're not in it, it doesn't link us to Belarus or Russia. My question to you really is, what the hell do we get out of being in the ECHR? I can't really work out what it is.
Well, Kev, it's necessary to go back to where it all started. It started after the Holocaust and the Second World War. It was all designed to deal with the flow of refugees from Germany, from Russia, from elsewhere. I was brought up in Hamburg, and I remember that my mother helped out with the refugees coming from East Germany because there was no Berlin Wall at the time. Of course, there were the barbed wire fences and the mines and so on, the dogs, but there wasn't the wall. And so we had all these people fleeing from these new communist countries. And so the Convention on Human Rights was really a statement by civilized countries as to what a civilized country should expect and the standards to which it should adhere. But we are in completely changed times. It took several days to fly to other parts of the country, other parts of the world. People can now hop on an aeroplane and travel halfway around the world in a day, and they do so. And of course, people have got wise to the fact that Western countries are accepting these people because, of course, we have this huge sense of responsibility for human rights and so on. So people whose countries have no respect for human rights are leaving those countries and taking advantage of our liberal traditions. And at the same time, of course, overwhelming us. And our problems are not as great as those of Italy, as you've just been referring to in your report. This is a major crisis affecting the whole of Europe, and Europe needs to get a grip and understand that its traditions, its values, its whole essence is really under threat from what Margaret Thatcher said in 1975 when she said we were at risk of being swamped by immigration. Well, look what's happened since she became leader of the Conservative Party in 1975 and uttered that expression. We have really been subjected to an invasion. And of course, many have settled and many have adopted our ways. Many of them have contributed. But then we've seen on the streets of London tens of thousands of people demonstrating in support of a policy driven by a particular section of the community. And that, I think, is unacceptable.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. What I can't get my head around, frankly, is the fact that during this time, between Margaret Thatcher and now, with a 1.80-seat Conservative majority, we've actually largely had Conservative rule. So what on earth has gone wrong in the Conservative Party that we're facing these issues when sensible men like you are standing up and saying what the rest of the country believes?
Well, the level of migration when we left office in 1997 was around about 20 to 40,000. It was not as it is now. It has been completely taken over, particularly by Tony Blair. He started this policy of allowing mass migration, but it has also happened under us. When I was a defense minister in David Cameron's government, and there was a reluctance on two grounds, a reluctance on political grounds not to wish to be labeled racist, and a reluctance on economic grounds, not willing to withhold the opportunity of importing labor, particularly in the care industry, particularly in the hospitality industry, and so on. We are paying a big price for that. But we can look back at the past and see where we've come from. Important to look back at the past, see where we've come from. But looking back at the recent past, we can see where we're going. And where we're going is a completely unacceptable place. Ergo, the government has got to start thinking in terms of dramatic action. And it is an absurdity, as you were suggesting, Alex. It's a complete absurdity to suggest that if we were to retire from the European Convention of Human Rights, that it would damage our reputation around the world and put us in the same boat as Putin. I mean, there may well be countries who would take that view, but they're countries that we wouldn't give a fig for in any case. And I do understand. There are lawyer friends of mine in the House of Commons on the Conservative benches who feel that this is not a thing which a country which believes proudly and strongly in the rule of law should be doing. But the circumstances are exceptional. We are living in very difficult and dangerous times, and our country is being changed under our noses, and we have to take action. And we have a Conservative government in office today. It is their responsibility to take that action. And I would just
Gerald,
adduce in support Robert
I think you should
Well
dust
said.
off the rosette and stand again yourself.
Yeah, let's get you back. Let's get you back. Come on.
Bring back Sir Gerald Howarth.
I'm afraid her ladyship would not approve of that.
Oh well. Well, we'll talk to you again soon.
I've done my bit. I've handed over to my excellent son-in-law James Cartledge, who's taken the job I shadowed for 6 years. He's now Minister for Defence Procurement and doing a great job there, and he's my local MP. So there are some good people around, and we need to give them every encouragement.
Good to know.
Good to know.